Well, Wenda, there's a really big fuss, there seems to be amongst vegans, certainly on social media, over this McDonald's bringing out this vegan burger. They're calling them McPlant. McPlant, yeah. And they've already trialled it in, a few stores.
How did it go down?
A few of their, well, they're not really restaurants, are they? Call them restaurants, no. But they're not, are they? They're eating places, shall we say? Yeah. And they've trialled it, and they're rolling it out next year.
The thing is, I mean, no vegans are going to go and eat it, are they?
Well, I think this is what the dispute is over, because I think some vegans, or people call themselves vegans, or quite a lot of people calling themselves vegans, say that they are going to eat it, and they're saying vegans should support this, and vegans should go and eat this. Some are saying that.
They're willing to give their money to a company that not only decimates trees and woodlands and forests for beef production, and then ruins cities with their rubbish and everything else, and their ethic is just non-vegan.
Yes.
I can't believe anybody who is vegan for the right reasons could possibly want to be seen dead in a McDonald's.
And of course, another thing about McDonald's is the Mclibel case, the famous Mclibel case, which kind of new vegans aren't going to remember because it was in the 1990s. And what it was McDonald's actually persecuted some animal rights and environmental activists. There was a campaign against McDonald's. I think it was run by an organisation called London. I think it was London Greenpeace. They call that name, and not connected to the big Greenpeace.
Yeah.
And they ran the campaign against McDonald's because what McDonald's do to animals, what they do to the environment, the bad conditions for the workers, all that. And they were giving out leaflets trying to get people, quite rightly, to boycott McDonald's. Had a leaflet called "What's Wrong with McDonald's" that listed all the terrible things McDonald's do. And McDonald's actually sued them. Well, McDonald's actually they had I think they tried they kind of even had infiltrators, but infiltrators in the in the sort of animal rights movement, within those people as well, and they sued them for libel.
But they sued the individuals, Ronnie.
They sued a number of individuals.
Which would have meant a prison sentence.
Well, it would have meant it would have meant those people would have had to pay a load of money and probably be paying money to McDonald's for the rest of their lives. And McDonald's already make a fortune. So they sued them. Well, but not everyone continued with the case. I think there was but two of them. That's a woman called Helen Steele and a guy called Dave Morris. They decided, well, we're going to fight McDonald's. Good. And of course, the thing is with libel, if you're sued for libel, you don't get legal aid.
No.
You have to pay for it yourselves, and it can be a fortune. So this is a terrible thing where people with loads of money have got an advantage because they can afford to mount a libel case, or they can afford to defend a libel case. But people with no money or little money
can't do a thing.
They can't. Well, but they did, because what they did was they defended themselves, and they had voluntary help from and the case went on for ages and ages and ages. I think one of the most long-running court cases in history. And they actually Helen and Dave, they actually largely succeeded against McDonald's. Most of it, what they said, was held to be justified. But this was that McDonald's persecuting animal rights activists.
Yeah.
So like you can't. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget. They're still the same. They're still the same company.
Of course they are.
So we. The last thing we want is like vegans, running in there and supporting them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Honest,
it's a bit like
companies prepared to do that to people that are fighting for animals.
Yeah.
And so that another reason why they shouldn't be supported. I think a lot of people that call themselves vegan, they're only concerned about whether something contains animal products. That's where it begins and ends. Does this contain animal products? Does it contain animal rights? Does it contain animal rights? Does it contain animal products? 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 Does it contain animal yes or no. If it doesn't contain animal products, that's great. I'll eat it, and it don't matter about any of the surrounding circumstances.
No.
You see, because there's a thing I posted. I posted a picture. I did like, is it a meme thing? You make and you put it on there. And it was a picture of Trident. The nuclear missile. You see, and I put it at the top, as a vegan. What do you think of Trident? And then the answer was, I don't know. Does it contain animal products? Like a weapon of mass destruction.
And does it contain any animal products?
My kind of attitude to it is going to depend on does it or does it not contain animal products. It doesn't matter that it's would destroy billions of lives, including the lives of countless other animals.
Exactly.
And I think this is the problem that with a lot of people. I say people call themselves vegans because, you see, veganism isn't a diet. Veganism is a philosophy of animal liberation.
Cool.
It's about being opposed to speciesism, being opposed to human supremacism, desiring animal liberation, not wanting to be part or doing one's best to avoid contributing to the oppression or exploitation of other animals. And I think also that really veganism should also contain an activist component where vegans feel that they have a duty to educate other people to be vegan.
Exactly.
That's what being a vegan is.
Of course it is.
Right? And so the diet is just part of that. In other words, to have a philosophy of animal liberation and then say, well, I'm going to live according to that. I'm going to live according to that philosophy, and a big way of living according to that philosophy is trying to avoid animal products, of course, because that constitutes a huge area of the oppression of other animals.
So no matter how difficult it is, or how appealing something might be, that as in this case, one can now trundle along to McDonald's with the non, in inverted commas, vegan family members and have a vegan burger, one has to consider the ethics of companies. Now, McDonald's, as well as many millions of other companies, is a non-vegan company in all respects of veganism, and we have to. Surely we think and we feel things, and excuse the flashing lights.
That's right.
They're my shoe lights.
We're not being. Your sanctuary's not being shelled by Ronald McDonald, is it?
No, I hope not. The cows will be rolling out all the ground air missiles.
The cows will be there with the machine guns and that, yeah.
AK-47s at the ready. but the thing is, people shouldn't, in my book, and I know it's wrong to dictate to people, but to encourage people to think about where they buy things from. They need to support vegan business, and that has to be as against these multinationals who are just churning out vegan things to make money.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You see, the thing is that something I say very frequently these days is that becoming vegan and being a vegan doesn't begin and end with just avoiding animal products. Even if the reason why someone avoids animal products is because they do believe in animal liberation. I mean, if someone avoids animal products and they don't believe in animal liberation, then they're not a vegan. No. If someone says I'm vegan for the environment, I'm vegan for health, I say, well, hang on a minute, mate. No, you're not really vegan. You're a plant eater, because in order to be vegan is a philosophy of animal liberation. In order to be vegan, you're doing those things because you believe in animal liberation, and then you're a vegan, you see. But of course, we don't all, awareness is something that grows and increases, isn't it? And so somebody can say, well, look, I don't believe that humans should oppress other animals or exploit other animals, and so I'm going to do my best to not be involved in that. I'm going to do my best to live according to that, and at that point, a person actually becomes vegan. I would say that's the point at which they become vegan. But of course, it's a learning process, because you know, at the beginning, a person that becomes vegan may not be aware of all the ways in which animals are oppressed. You see, they probably receive some information about, what happens to, say, farmed animals, the conditions that they're kept in, the slaughter, the fact that we can live perfectly well without any of that, without killing them, all these things. And so somebody makes the decision, right, yeah, I'm going to become vegan. But that's the beginning of the learning process.
Of course it is.
You see, and I think this is kind of to do with that. That somebody that's at the beginning of that might think, oh, great, there's this burger that's been produced and it doesn't contain animal products. No animals been slaughtered, no animals gone through suffering to produce that. So that's okay for me to go to McDonald's and eat that. And there may well be people who genuinely kind of believe that, you see. But kind of what we need to be doing is, the vegan education continues even when people become vegan. In other words, to educate those people to live and behave even more ethically, if you see what I mean. And so, although technically, of course, it's true that product, it doesn't contain animal products, right? And it will probably end up being certified by the Vegan Society. I mean, they have certified stuff from, is it Burger King, or I mean, there are some of these fast food products that have been certified by the Vegan Society because they're, they don't contain animal products.
Well, that just helps people understand. I mean, I'm not knocking the Vegan Society because it's wonderful to have such a group to fall back on to help educate people when they're making that transition to veganism. But it causes more confusion than anything else. When something gets the vegan stamp of approval, then they will eat it without thinking. And I think it really causes problems.
I think yes. I mean, I suppose the Vegan Society would argue where do we draw the line?
Exactly.
Because of course, and this is and so if someone's going to live as ethically as possible in terms of because with McDonald's isn't just the case that we have to take more into consideration than the fact that particular product doesn't contain animal product, right? You got to take into consideration the whole ethos of that company, the whole way that company behaves, the fact that they're responsible for the suffering of and slaughter of billions of other animals in their other products. They're still massively a meat providing company, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
And the fact that these animals are reared in appalling conditions, and the environmental destruction that they're responsible for as well, and that impacts on animals that live in nature, wild animals, free living beings, impacts on those on those creatures, and so they're hugely negative in terms of their impact on other animals, despite the fact that they produced the McPlant burger, you see. And so it's about choices. It's about choices that, somebody, we have the choice of, how choices about how we live, how we consume. And so if we have a choice between a product that involves, like horrendous killing and suffering towards animals, and another product that doesn't, then ethically, we're really obliged to buy the product that doesn't, you see. And it's kind of the same that, if someone, there are other eating places around.
Of course.
So someone's starving, and the only place that they can crawl into to put something into their face is McDonald's. Is that actually your situation? Is that really, or isn't it the true situation? Is it there's loads of eating places around, loads of eating places around, and there's a lot of vegan eating places around,
of course,
as well. Or if there's not vegan eating places around, then there are other places that may not be vegan, but are certainly a lot more ethical than McDonald's. Perhaps like a local cafe.
That's
It's
it.
more
And
a
they're
community cafe. All right, so they might have meat on the menu, but they're not responsible for the mass, horrendous destruction that McDonald's is. So this is another way that you make a choice to live more ethically. You see, but you see, I think that the argument that these people that are raving about that, they say, oh well, there's a couple of arguments they put forward. First of all, it is if us vegans don't all flock to McDonald's and eat this burger, McDonald's are going to stop producing it. They're not going to produce it anymore. You see, that's the first argument, and I think that's I think that's a false argument, because you see, I think that, what the situation is really is that what the people that are going to eat that burger are people that go in McDonald's anyway. You see, like all these vegans don't go in McDonald's now, and they're suddenly going to start going in there, are they now? That there's that burger. You know what I mean? But there's plenty of people that are already going in McDonald's.
What are they having in McDonald's, though, Ronnie?
Sorry?
If they're already going into McDonald's, what are they?
Well, I'm talking about non-vegans.
Oh, okay, fine.
And what vegan would go in McDonald's now?
No one in the right mind.
Apart from a piss, which is the reason I sometimes go in there.
Exactly.
I have a sneak down and have a piss down in the toilet if I'm caught short, and they're the nearest toilet. I go in there and avail myself their facilities. Yeah. And try and.
But that's all they're worth.
Yeah, it's a Mac piss, isn't it? I don't think I've ever had a Mac shit.
No, you've got to work with that one.
Well, I've had a Mac piss in there, like occasionally.
But it's really. I think people saying that without wanting to criticize too many people are very short-sighted in saying we should support or we should go to McDonald's now, because if we don't all run in and buy the burger, by doing that and buying a burger at McDonald's rather than the little local shop, you're putting
the local shop out of business. The ethical vegan person, with that money that they get from their business, they're going to spend on vegan products, aren't they? You put money in McDonald's, what are they going to spend that on? Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, the people who are going to eat that burger, right? Vegans don't need to go in there to make sure McDonald's carry on with that burger. McDonald's know that people are, becoming plant eaters. Whether or not they're actually becoming vegan is a slightly different thing.
The only thing it could do, Ronnie, is it could appeal to people who are vegan inquisitive, who might just for the heck of it taste it. But they're not going to be diehard vegans who will look at the whole picture, as you said, because I really don't think people like that exist.
No. I think what's going to happen is you'll get people going McDonald's that go in there anyway, because a load of people sadly do go in the bloody place, right? And they're going to think, I'm kind of thinking about this vegan thing, and and there's a plant, so I'll try it, and I'll eat that instead of the meat burger. Well, if someone does that, that is a step. That is an improvement. That is a step in the right. I mean, I would rather McDonald's had that burger than didn't have that burger. I would rather, like you've got things like Frey Bentos, like a horrendous meat. They've got huge factories. Live animals go in one end, and the products of the dead animals come out the other as they go through the whole process in their great big, their great big units, And they brought out a vegan pie, and people were very raving about Frey Bentos that brought out, it's the same. But I mean, I'd rather they had a vegan pie than they didn't, because someone that buys that's into, I like the Frey Bentos stuff, they got a vegan one, I'll try that. Maybe, I'm thinking a bit about this, that's what that's for. That's not for vegans to suddenly go and buy the Frey Bentos to make sure that the Frey Bentos carry on with it. They will anyway. You see, they will because they see the way things are going. And what's going to happen? Existing vegans don't need to go into McDonald's and eat that thing, because people that are non-vegans will eat it. And that's the only real positive thing about it.
That's true.
You know, and so I would rather they had that than they didn't have that. And in that sense, you can say, well, it is a step in the right direction. Frey Bentos having that price of step in the direction. They're all doing it. They're all doing it. And like a lot of the plant milks are produced by dairy companies.
Yes, a lot of dairy.
I mean, Alpro is Danone, which is a huge dairy company, for instance. Like, and they're moving in all the time. It's like Butte Island cheese has been bought by a huge Canadian dairy company. You know, and all these people are like, you know, because they see the way the wind's blowing. Yeah. And they think, well, people are going more. Yeah. You know, becoming more into plant eating or plant based.
And they're putting an awful lot of money into.
And I'd rather they did that than they didn't do that. But you see, that's kind of really in a sense where it stops. Because these are still not ethical companies. These companies are still involved in horrendous oppression of other animals. They're still involved in, you know, huge destruction of the environment, and you know, these are, you know, and contributing to the huge, the damage to the world and to society that's caused by, you know, capitalism and you know, large scale capitalism as well. All of that adds up, you know. And McDonald's, you know, people that work at McDonald's, you know, there's been complaints about, you know, how those people are treated and everything. It's a whole bloody lot of it, you know, what these companies are like.
It's non-existent. They're
not unethical. They're a highly unethical company. So the fact that they produced a vegan burger, don't save them, to be quite honest. You know?
I think there is a slight difference between McDonald's producing a vegan burger and companies buying out traditionally vegan companies like Butte, but they're willing to put in millions to produce more and more vegan products for an ever-growing vegan market. That is slightly different. I would be less phased continuing to buy cheese and other products than I would with somebody trying to talk me into going to McDonald's, because Butte has always been a vegan company. And there are other companies as well, like one of the plant milk, oat milk companies has just been bought by a big dairy conglomerate. I can't remember who it is. But they too are sinking millions into plant milk. So the horrors of the dairy industry are putting money into producing plant-based milks, which I think they all know it's the future.
Yeah, well, they're doing it. They're not doing that for ethical reasons. They're doing it because that's where they see the profits are going to come from. You know what I mean? They know more people are going to want those products, and so I think we need to be doing that now. So like we're ahead of the curve, and we, you know, we make, you know, they just want to make money. That's what if they were truly ethical, they completely immediately the dairy side, wouldn't they? So they're not doing it for ethical reasons.
But they want the best of both markets.
You know. Well, yes, and you know what could happen is, of course, the dairy animal product side of it would die away, hopefully, and the plant based. But there's still a huge capitalist company contributing to the huge destruction that capitalism causes to the natural world, you know, through the profit motive and the you know, the harm, because these people, you know, they're there to make profit, and so, you know, the kind of the cheapest way of creating and selling something is kind of what they want to do, and of course that is you know is almost always, or probably maybe absolutely always, harmful to the environment, harmful to the natural world. You see, this is the difficulty. but I think because another argument, these kind of people that think we should all go and eat the McDonald's, the McPlant burger, they say, well, how is that different than going in a supermarket? Because if vegans go in Sainsbury's or Tesco, they're not ethical companies either. They sell loads of meat, and like as we know from all these campaigns, that some of that, or probably most of it, is or all of it, is horrendously produced. And so they say, well, kind of what's the difference? And I can kind of understand that, and I think but what I would say to that, it's a question of because being vegan is about doing your best, really. I mean, the vegan definition saying as far as is possible and practicable to avoid, avoid involvement, avoid buying into the exploitation of other animals, basically. I mean, that's kind of what they're different, and I sort of understand that, because we don't live in a perfect world. We don't live in the perfect world, so no one's quite perfectly vegan. We don't know, so many things in life, kind of contribute to the oppression of other animals, don't they? And that we can't divorce ourselves entirely from all that, right? So there is no absolutism about it. There can't be, but it's about doing your best, you see. And so people need to say, in my own circumstances, I need to do my best, and question themselves, am I doing my best, according to my own circumstances? And I think the thing is with somewhere like McDonald's, it's kind of really easy to eat elsewhere, isn't it? It's really easy to eat elsewhere.
It's preferable to eat elsewhere.
It's preferable to eat elsewhere. I mean, why do you want to stuff that junk into you anyway? It's probably junk food, isn't it?
Awful.
I mean, we want vegans to be healthy. I want vegans to be healthy for two reasons.
They're an advertisement to veganism.
First of all, they're an investment. And secondly, because I want all vegans to be activists, and healthier you are, the more
and
you
live longer.
fitter you can be and live longer. Yeah, of course. We don't stop shoving junk in yourself. Well, the odd little treat, maybe like you'll have a bit of a vegan burger or like a vegan hot dog, from like a vegan place, preferably, or a vegan company. Yeah, all right. Well, a lot of these things ain't. I mean, like, for instance, say a company like Linda McCartney. Now nearly all their stuff's vegan now. It didn't used to be, but they've become more and more vegan. And like some of their stuff ain't particularly healthy, I think they've got things that have got kind of quite a lot of salt in and shit. But they are, they're one of the more ethical companies.
They are.
Rather than a meat company that's decided, I'm going to produce a vegan burger to get some money off vegans. It's basically what they're,
that's all they're doing.
Or people that want to move to that kind of a diet. That's what it's for money. And all right, Linda McCartney, that company, of course they need to make profit. They need to survive. That's how the world is. But there is an ethical element to it, because they don't sell meat. No. So they've made an ethical decision. Right, we're restricting our range to a more ethical form of eating, especially now that they're cutting out the animal products and they're moving towards vegan. It's the same with corn, aren't they? Corn, more and more corn is becoming vegan now. You see.
Yeah.
And I think it's a question. It's kind of really easy to avoid McDonald's. What are you going in there for? There's loads of places you can eat. In fact, you want to go in there, that bloody place for, right?
Yeah.
But with supermarkets, it's a bit more difficult. Because I think what's happened is supermarkets have like become all invasive, haven't they? Like, it's harder to find the alternatives to supermarkets than it is to find the alternatives. I mean, you can. I mean, we do our best to avoid supermarkets. For instance, we have a box delivery from an organic company. Well, they're not entirely ethical because they sell organic meat as well. But at least it is more ethical than the supermarket. Do you know what I mean? So we'll get it from. I mean, we'd rather get from a veganic place. Just that there isn't delivered here, And
a lot of this, Ronnie, though, is money based. People, even when they become vegan, are still looking for a bargain when it comes to food. It comes down to the fact there's no pride in food. There's no desire to fill our bodies with ethically produced, nutritionally charged food. It's really, I need tomatoes, where can I get them cheaply? Or I need vegan sausages, where are they on offer?
So in other words, there becomes an end point to the ethical journey, doesn't it? Because obviously, even though, like say you're talking about something like bacon, you've got the bacon from the pigs, and then you've got vegan, versions, haven't you, of it? Yeah. And so like, someone will buy the vegan version even though the one from the pig is cheaper. So they're prepared to spend more. Yeah. In that situation, but that's kind of where it ends. And then they're not looking at the ethical, how ethical all these vegan products are in terms of who produces them. Yeah. And other aspects of it. You see, it kind of, it's like I'll go so far but no further. And I'm not saying, and my view is that veganism isn't a situation of I'll go so far and no further. It's you have to continue. There is no cut-off point. There is no cut-off point. You've got to continue, and there isn't for me. No. I don't. I may find out about. There may be something that I've been buying and eating, think it's perfectly all right, and I'll find out tomorrow it's the horrendous thing about it. I think, right, that's it. Yeah. I'm not going to get that no more. I found that out. I didn't know before. I'm not to blame. I didn't know. You see, and I think that this is the thing, that it's a journey. We have a journey within veganism to try and become, more and more ethical, to try and, reduce the negative impact our lifestyles have on other animals. And on the environment, because that's their home, isn't it? The natural world is their home, and then you destroy that, and then that ends up with the animals suffering and dying.
Respect for what we eat is absolutely imperative in people's mind. It has to be, because it's not a question of cutting a food bill when people can go out and drink 10 pints of beer and not bother about how much they spend. Use more money for food, which is empowering your body, which is better for you. It's feeding your brain, it's feeding your mind, it's allowing you to absorb more when you're not tired all the time or drunk or whatever. I don't mind people drinking, it doesn't worry me at all. And even I drink occasionally, but
especially after you've had this conversation with me.
Of course, yeah, I know. I'm on a
you're straight on the bottle, then straight on the gin, is it?
and then I'm for the rest of the day. But seriously, if people were like, when we were talking a few weeks ago, and you were remembering the black bean pies or whatever pasties. Now, that is good body food. It's good mind food. And yet today, I would put money on the fact, if you went out today with a whole tray of these things and said to people, black bean pies, would you like one? And people would say, oh, what's in it? Oh, I don't do beans. No, I don't do beans. And they're not inspired to be healthy, because healthy is a not nice word, but give them cakes. And they will stuff their faces with cake until the sugar levels are so high they're virtually verging on diabetes.
Yeah, the cake thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not very keen on sweet things.
No, I'm not.
I'll occasionally have a bit of cake, but I'm not a big. I'm much more savoury.
Yeah.
Or some people
unsavoury.
But you see, the thing is that I think there's a couple of things to be said. I think a lot of younger people today have been brought up on junk food.
Yeah.
It's not like, when I was a kid,
food,
all right, we had meat at home when I was a kid, but my mum used to cook everything from scratch. Everything. She made her own pies. She cooked her own chips that were lovely. I mean, we didn't have them all the time. Maybe once a week we might have chips, and everything was cooked. Now, I'm not saying it should just be the woman that does the cooking. The man can equally cook as well. We can all cook, and we should. And that was how it was. And that was how I was brought up, and that all my friends brought up. Their mums were saying you couldn't really get junk food. It wasn't really around.
No.
And then this is coming over the years. You've got these eating places serving, junk food, high in sugar, high in salt, high in fat,
calorie,
unhealthy fats and all this shit in it. And then also you can buy these things also, from the supermarket and make them yourself, but they're still not very healthy.
They take 2 minutes to make.
or you can put a thing in the microwave. You see, this is the thing, is that what's happened is there's been this kind of, decadence in relation to food.
That's true.
Food, and so what's happened is, like, these people don't remember that. These younger people, they've been brought up on all this junk food. So what they want is the vegan version of that.
Of course.
The vegan version of that. They don't know really what real food is. It's like they don't know how to cook.
Yeah.
But like, cooking isn't complicated. And I think there's a mystification about cooking that is sort of, people are led to believe this is how you get these, the chef on the telly and it's all complicated and all that, but it's not. Fry up a few onions, bit of garlic, as long as you've got onions and garlic, like, everything tastes lovely, doesn't it?
Anything, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose if you put it in chocolate, it wouldn't be that great, but
You never know.
You can put chocolate. Actually, you can put chocolate in like chilies and.
Yeah, of course you can.
Doodah.
Yeah.
The
like
thing.
Spaghetti, yeah.
Spags, but if you're doing a fake spag, well, not a fake one, but a vegan version of it.
Vegan spag roll, yeah.
They can, but like, there's some things, but you know what I mean. It's like really, it's like cooking. It's a lot easier. It's made out to be like. Made out to be much more complicated.
It's also
than it really is.
It means if you're doing your cooking from scratch, you can buy more food for the same amount of money you spend on ready-made foods. And other than half an hour or 25, 40 minutes even, you've got a meal. You've made it yourself. There's some pride in serving that meal and eating it.
Or you can make a load. I mean, like here, we'll make a stew.
Yeah.
It lasts 3 days. You don't even have to freeze it. Put it in the fridge. It lasts 3 days. Big stew, loads of lovely veg and everything. All.
But I bet you any money though, Ronnie, there aren't many people around who would be willing to eat the same food 3 consecutive days. People want change. They want adventure in their culinary whatever. And you can still freeze. You can freeze a stew. You can have it.
You can freeze it. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. I mean, we haven't got really, very big freeze because of the space we've got. We've only got a little, so we tend to. I'm quite happy to eat it.
Yeah, I don't mind
days run. Don't care. You know what I mean. I think there's a kind of
there's a big
fuss. Yeah. There's a fuss made over food. There's a fuss made over food.
And we need to eat
it's completely,
it's
completely out of proportion. You see, the thing is that, like, there's this first thing I was saying about people who've been brought up on junk food, right? And say they want the vegan. They go, I can get a vegan version of the junk food I was eating before I was vegan.
Yeah.
Right. Well, all right, for starters, fine. If that's all you've ever ate, that's all you ever know as food, then I can understand that, because like your palate's used to that. But like, part of the progression is to come off that. All right, switch from like the animal product junk food, with the meat and the cheese and the eggs junk food, and then you're on the vegan junk food. Well then, but your journey don't end there, and then you go, because you see, it's not just to do with health. It's very important to be healthy. It's to do with impact, isn't it? That the more processed food is, the more energy has gone into that.
Yes, that's very true.
And so that's got an impact on the environment. And then also, it's already loads of plastic on it and all that, and the harm that does. So it's not just healthier to eat.
It's environmentally more
made from basic ingredients. It's actually, more friendly to the environment, and as a consequence is less harmful to other animals, because the harm we do to the environment, all this plastic and that, the main victims of all that are other animals, aren't they? Yeah, the seas, all the plastic in the seas and that we've kind of, although of course people go on about the plastic in the seas, but half the plastic in the seas is caused by the bloody fishing industry, which is another reason to be vegan and not eat fish. So I say to all these people talking about, I don't use plastic straws anymore, and I go, well, but that's tiny. What you want to do is go vegan, and that makes a huge impact on your contribution to plastic pollution, or in reducing your contribution to plastic pollution. Anyway, so I think that's one problem. Is people and basically, like, all young people should be taught to cook, all in schools.
Definitely.
All taught to cook, boys and girls, exactly the same, right? Definitely. Or you learn how to cook, and you learn how to cook from basically, you learn to cook healthy, and obviously vegan. I'd want to see, as well in with that, and that's what they should be doing anyway, with all the climate and the contribution of, I mean, as well as the slaughter and suffering of all these individual animals go through. So there's that aspect, but then I think there's another decadence to do with food, and that is people have got used to, it's I want. I want food. I want this food, even that's come from the other side of the world.
I want it now.
I want. What are we doing when we can grow loads of wonderful food in this country? Right. What are we doing getting food from the other side of the world? That's great. I mean, the whole thing of food is mad anyway, because like we export a load of food to other countries from here, and then we import a load of food.
Same thing.
What the fuck's going on?
Exactly.
All that energy that's gone into that transportation, the impact on the natural world, it's mad. Well, this is capitalism. This is what's wrong with capitalism, because there's no management. It's like a free for all. Where, just act according to what makes the most profit, and if that means that you get something from abroad because it's cheaper, because it's produced by some poor people over there that are paid up anything, and grown on land where they could grow stuff to feed themselves, for instance. We'll get all that in because that's cheaper. It should be all managed and all properly managed and controlled. That we could feed ourselves easily in this country.
Of course,
don't have to import anything from anywhere, right? And if obviously if we all lived on a vegan diet, we only need a percentage of the land that we use. I think is it a third of the agricultural land that we use at the moment?
Of course, yes.
We could feed ourselves, because of course a load of that land is used to grow food to feed
animals who are going to
animals. So get rid of all that. We can feed ourselves on say a third of the agricultural land we have at the moment, and the rest of it, let that go back to nature. Let woods grow there, and then the result of that is that it pulls a load of carbon out of the atmosphere, carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and it combats the climate crisis.
And it also creates the old environments where we used to have woodlands full of wild boar and
exactly. Bears. I mean, our country should be mostly this country should be mostly woodland. That's what it was. That's what it was, and that's what it needs to return to. Really. And so, I mean, obviously that's an argument for veganism, but the other thing, but it's also an argument, a lot of stuff that we get from abroad, we could grow here. It's just that it's not economic. It's more profitable to get it. Tea grows in this country. We don't need to get tea from India and all those places. We could grow tea here. It grows in this country. Some people grow tea in this country. You can buy it, but it's massively expensive because, of course, it's cheaper to, all these Indian people grow it, get it over here. But we can grow tea. Loads of stuff. Loads of stuff.
Of course we can.
We could grow if we wanted to. And then if you can't grow it, well, what's the big deal? You're going to die if you never have that again. If you never have a banana again, you're going to die. No, of course you're not. What's the big thing that you've got to have all these things? I don't understand it.
No, I don't.
I've got to have that, and that comes from like a long way away. I've still got to have that.
That's miles away.
I want me. But the other thing is, the other thing to remember is that there's loads of foods that could be grown in this country that aren't. You see, that there's a massive people. You go back a few hundred years, people their variety of what they ate
was amazing.
Was kind of probably more than now, because there's all these crops that can be grown in this country. They don't grow them anymore because like the supermarkets just want, well, we just want this particular one, just that variety of that variety of that variety of that, right? And so all these, like, you know, more unusual, there's all this stuff that people have never heard of before that could be grown here. Of course. It isn't, because of course it's all controlled by the supermarkets, and they want, you know, it's easy for them to just have a load of the one particular thing. You see, so that's another thing. We would still have variety. It would be a different sort of variety. And there are some people that keep these crops alive. There's some, you know, these are grown in very small quantities, but they're not, a load of them people never heard of, you know, because like, and so we would still have, but it would not be. But I think the other thing to remember, because there's all sorts of twists and turns in that, is that I mean, I think that all food we eat in this country should be grown in this country. Exactly. I think the food we eat should be grown as close as possible to where we live, so you don't get the so you don't get the, like, all the transportation and stuff involved in it that impacts on the environment, right? And that it should all be veganically grown, of course. And eat stuff that's in season, so you don't have all the costs of all the storage and all the, you know, different refrigeration you'd have to do. I mean, you know, I'm not totally against that. You know, I think that there's a role for refrigeration in stuff, you know, but like, let's limit the energy we're expending to protect the environment, right? So that's that. You know, that's the, you know, that's kind of, you know, what I'd say. And it'd be healthier, and, you know, the environmental impact of it would be much lower. And
it would be more interesting, Ronnie.
We could have, like, there's all these foods that we haven't, you know, and I think that there is this decadence. You know, we live in a highly decadent society. I want, you know, and all that, and this feeds into that. But I think the other thing to remember, and this is a thing kind of to point out to non-vegans, it's actually, although I advocate that food's, you know, grown as close as possible to consumption, you know, in order to reduce the environmental impact of that food, what we need to remember is that a meat product produced down the road from where you live has a higher carbon footprint than the vegan product that's come from the other side of the world.
That's very true.
Because the main carbon footprint of food is caused in the production.
Animal agriculture.
Not in the transportation.
No.
You know, transportation, you know, although, you know, does contribute significantly to global heating, to the climate crisis, is not as much as production. You see, and because, say, the production of beef or any other kind of meat product has such a high impact, negative impact on the environment, the actual transportation of a vegan substitute for that product from the other side of the world actually causes less. And that's the thing to point out to all these people. Well, I only eat locally produced beef. I eat locally produced beef, and I'm better than you because you had something that come from
an avocado.
You had an avocado, But no, sorry, pal, you're wrong. I mean, apart from the suffering and slaughter caused to those particular animals that you're killed to stuff down your throat, right? The actual environmental impact of that is higher than the food I've got, because the production, the cost on the environment of the production is the greatest harm, and this is what people need to read. The vegan site got something on their site that you can find. It's called like a carbon calculator for food, and what you can do is, it's not produced by the vegan site, produced by a university. So they were kind of neutral. I don't think they're a vegan organisation. And what you can put in, you can put in, a type of food. You can put in like how much of it, and you can put in where it come from. Where it's going to be transported from, and it says what the carbon impact of it is. And I did like something, some meat from down the road and some vegan burger from Australia, and the vegan burger from Australia was less of a carbon impact, of an environmental impact than the meat from down the road.
Crazy.
You see, and so that's another important. But nevertheless, we have to all the time be trying to minimise, our impact on the natural world all the time, because that impact affects other animals, and part of being vegan is doing that. So to really minimise it, food needs to be grown as close as possible to where it's consumed, and a lot of the food we get from abroad, we could grow here. We could grow a lot of other varieties of food that we haven't been eating, in any large scale, hundreds of years, and so we could have variety. And there's some things we couldn't have. Well, what's that can do? That's not going to kill us, not to be able to think, certain things. Don't bother me. I don't know what the big fuss is about food.
I just think that we're raised, or we grow up at, well, say the past 50 years have been at a time when everything has been possible, where, as you say, things have been brought from the other side of the world. We're used to eating vegetables out of season. We're used to eating foods that people eat in other countries that have become popular and trendy. These chicken places that have popped up that come from the States or South America, and we're spoiled for choice now. We seem to think we could have, or we should have, everything here in the UK that we could have on our travels, or we have had on our travels. And the most important thing, I was just thinking when you were talking earlier, we feed the cows hay that's grown locally within so many miles, and we know it's not good, but they're cows, and even at the sanctuary they have to have food. And all that we bring from them, we don't. Just this last year, we had to bring from the north of England to feed them because there was a no hay down here and no straw. But we sourced from people who grow environmentally, and normally this year we're returning to normal. But if we should feed animals locally grown food, then that tells us something, that if they do better on locally grown food that comes from their immediate environment, then we too should aim to have stuff that is grown within 5 or 10 miles, because it benefits us. It's in the same environment that we live in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you totally. And this is all part of being vegan, you see. And this is what I'd say to the people that are going on about, like, we should all flock to McDonald's, to eat this bloody McPlant. That, like, you're not living according to the true principles of veganism, because to be truly vegan is to be continually, attempting as best as we can not to be part of the oppression of other animals, and to combat the oppression of other animals. And that doesn't, it doesn't stop at the point of whether a thing does or does not contain animal products. That goes on further than that. And if you have a choice, and are capable of making that choice, you could always choose the option that has the least harmful impact on other animals. Exactly. And that's what I say to people. McDonald's aren't going to stop doing the McPlant because vegans don't go in there. There's plenty of non-vegans are going to eat that. And then hopefully if they become vegan, they can be educated not to go in bloody McDonald's anymore. Do you know what I mean? And go to the vegan cafe. Do you know what I mean? Of course. And then hopefully, even with supermarkets, I mean, like, I'd like to see all supermarkets, I'd like to see them replaced by, like, community enterprises, co-op, like a kind of food, community food. And so, because I can understand, like, people, I mean, the appeal of supermarkets, everyone get everything under one roof, can't they? They don't, like in the old days, you had to go about 10 different shops, which was all right, really. I mean, what's the big deal? It's okay. But, like, well, of course, blimey, I've saved 5 minutes that I can spend watching some shit on television because I went to the supermarket instead of, like, going to all these different shops. But there is an attraction that people can buy. But we could have that in a much more ethical way. We could have that in a much more revolutionary way by having, like, workers' co-ops that ran the food, and I mean, obviously all vegan, of course, it's got to be.
And weekly deliveries. We can go back to the old weekly deliveries where a local shop delivered your order.
But this is the thing, that people could still all go under one roof to get the shopping. But it's just that it's all done in an ethical way, and you could have kind of it's almost like a kind of indoor market type place where everyone's going around. It's all, and you could have a system where you pay for it all at once. You could have some sort of system that you worked out. So it was done like that, but it would be much more ethical. It wouldn't be a supermarket. It wouldn't be a big horrible capitalist enterprise that's involved in all sorts of harmful things. This could be local producers to a very large extent. And there may be the occasional thing that you'd have to get from further away. But but to think about local as much as possible, and you could still go and they'd be under one roof if that's what people want, and much more eco-friendly and much more friendly to other animals than the situation we've got now.
I think, I also think when people get their mind around that concept, it's exciting. It's a challenge for the greater good. And that's without wanting to sound too profound, but it would benefit us in our attitude to our food and to other beings, to our environment, to our lifestyle. And I think it's very, very important that people think more about A, what they're eating, B, where they're getting things from, and C, how it's grown.
Absolutely, I agree totally, and this is for people to look into. You can't blame people if somebody's just become vegan.
No, that's
at the beginning, and they've eaten junk food, and they've gone in the supermarket, and they've gone in McDonald's. They're just going to switch to the vegan version. But then you educate those people, say, well, your education hasn't ended now with the leaflet that you got that got you to go vegan, or the the thing you watched on YouTube, whatever that got you to go vegan.
Exactly.
That's the beginning. Your vegan journey now continues to try to become more and more ethical and to try and reduce the negative impact your lifestyle has on other animals. Right? And all this is part of that. And so, somebody that goes in McDonald's, like a vegan that goes because they don't know any better, I'm not going to say, well, you're not vegan.
No,
because being vegan is about doing your best, and in that person's particular circumstances at the time, that is doing their best because they don't know anything else. Once that person does know, hang on a minute, there's quite a lot of dodgy shit about McDonald's, you know what I mean? And there's a vegan cafe just around the corner that you could go in instead, or a community cafe or something you go in instead. Once that someone has that information, the same way as once the if a person receives information, like someone's eating meat and never thought about the situation, and I was like that. I thought, we had to eat meat, and then I got to know someone who was a vegetarian, told me why they were and all that, and then of course I started, hang on a minute, they're right, and I can't justify carrying on eating meat.
No.
Right? Because I received knowledge, and it's like when those people went vegan, right? They received knowledge through some information source about what happens to the animals, and that we don't need to eat them. And so they thought, well, right, okay, I'm going to go vegan, So once that person then receives information about something else they're doing is like not good for the animals. Like dining in McDonald's isn't really, even though they got the plant burger, is still like really contributing to like bad shit, Then their attitude should be the same as when they watched that film or got that leaflet in the first place and made that decision. No, the right thing for me to do is to go vegan, is to stop eating these animals, and then they should be thinking, well, in actual fact, the right thing for me to do is to not go in McDonald's, is to support the vegan cafe. It's like when all the time we're trying to do the right thing, if we can avoid as much as possible, buying stuff, not buying stuff from supermarkets and buying. We do a big order every few weeks from our vegan cafe, and they get stuff from Suma. Oh,
good, excellent.
And we do a big order from them. That we get all our plant milk from them. Loads of other stuff from them, and it might be slightly more expensive, but it's like what else are you going to spend if you've got the money? I understand someone that's really, really on the edge of poverty having to get stuff as cheap as possible, but very few people are in that situation. and loads of people spend money on stuff that's not really necessary.
Exactly.
On bollocks, don't they?
Yeah.
And then they go, I've got no money for the food. Oh yeah, but hang on, you had money for drink, you had money for fags.
Yeah.
You had money to, go out.
Yeah.
But you didn't have money for the most important thing, which is the life-sustaining food.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? This is the corruption of people, isn't it?
It is.
And the decadence of people. And so, it does cost more, but I'm happy to spend more.
Well, it's your life.
Because what else would I be spending that fucking money on anyway? Do you know what I mean? It would be, it wouldn't be as important as that, would it?
No.
And so all the time we try and really minimise what we get from supermarkets. And and people should try. Most people are in the same position. Most people would be able to do that, and so really that's what they should be trying to do.
The other thing, Ronnie, is people can club together to buy from cooperatives. Cooperatives like Infinity in Brighton will deliver a minimum order. So if you can't afford the minimum order yourself, get 3 or 4 friends to say, yeah, we'd like that, we'd like this, we'd like something else. Put an order together. They'll dump it off at one place. You can have a social meetup while you're doing up all your order.
Yes, well, this is something it's something that local vegan groups could do. I mean, in a sense, it's kind of easier for us in our group because we've got the shop. Yeah. And people can just order things through the shop, and they do a big order anyway, and so they're able to order extra. They do a big order for the shop, so they're able to. Somebody says, "Well, I want 2 tins of that." They can add that to the order because their order is already, above. It's already above the limit anyway. So, so we're lucky to have that. And I think probably quite a lot of people have vegan shops, and then it's just a question of collecting it, or they'll deliver it sometimes. And there's probably a lot of people, a lot of vegans in that situation where there is a local place they could do that with. If there's not, then your vegan group, you got these vegan groups on Facebook that very, very sadly, a lot of it's just about food. A lot of it's not activism.
That's true.
Fake, like wall-to-wall fucking cake. And so, but they could do it through the group. Through the group,
That is so true.
Or people could do. I mean, for instance, the woman in our group, there's a place that does these artisan cheeses.
Oh, nice.
Sends them through the post. That's in Bristol. But there's a few different places, and of course the postage can be quite expensive, and you need to get the postage to get 0 postage. If you get order so much, the postage is free. So what she does, she puts a post out. Anyone, here's the thing where you go and look and see, what vegan cheeses you want, right? And these are artisan cheeses. They're not made by any big company. They're like small enterprises making it from, and it's kind of totally healthier stuff. Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's cashew based, so for people that would, I don't know, it'd be great, you know what I mean? And but I don't know whether cashews go in this country. But if they didn't, we could make you can make vegan
lots of other things.
Make it from loads of stuff, But anyway, so and so a lot of people put in their order, and then she orders a big load, and there's no postage costs, and then. People go and collect it, or she distributes it, and that's how we do it. And so it's like a little thing for the cheese, Everyone could do that in all these groups that are on there. Do you know what I mean? And it kind of, it's just another step in the ethical direction, isn't it? It's important that we all try and all the time thinking that, how do I, live more ethically? How do I reduce my impact on, my harmful impact on the earth? And that's the. So I suppose, I mean, the final thing I'd say to vegans is it's not like it's kind of one of these things where it's not totally black and white. There's very few things that are totally black and white in the world, are there really?
No, there aren't.
yeah, and it's the thing is, yes, it is a good thing they've got the McPlant. It's better than them not having it. And hopefully, some of the people go in there and eat the meat burger, eat the McPlant, and that'll help them to become vegan. But McDonald's aren't going to go out of business if vegans don't flock in there and eat the McPlant. They'll sell plenty of them. They'll sell plenty of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, to non-vegans, and yeah, it might be, help those non-vegans go vegan, or they might think, oh yeah, this is a bad.
They'll be eating less.
They'll be eating less meat, and all that's good.
There's less demand, fewer are killed eventually.
But instead of flocking in there, what the existing vegans should be doing is going to places that are more ethical. Before we go to a local vegan cafe, support those people. A lot of these cafes, they run on a shoestring budgets. The person there is doing it for ethical reasons. They're not there to make a big load of money.
No.
Support them instead.
Exactly.
And all the time be thinking about how I can become more and more ethical, because that's part of being vegan. So that's the answer. So it's like it's not that it's not bad that they've got the vegan burger. That is in itself a positive thing, but that still doesn't mean existing vegans should support McDonald's.
No, definitely not. And it's a positive thing for them because it's going to bring more money in.
Well, that's the only reason they've done it.
Of course it is.
That's the only reason they've done it. If they were an ethical company, they'd straight away say, right, all our burgers are going to be plant burgers.
Yeah.
They're not an ethical company. They don't give a fuck like all these other ones. They don't. None of them are like, they're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart.
It's all business.
Let's remember that. Whereas vegan cafes and small vegan businesses are doing it for that reason. A lot of those people could make far more money doing other things.
Of course they could.
They make far more money doing other things, but they decided to do that because they want to spread the vegan message and they want to produce, stuff ethically. So support those people.
Definitely.
Instead of buying a McPlant, and let the meat eaters have the McPlant and then become vegan, and then we encourage them not to go to McDonald's anymore as well.
Well done, Ronnie.
Yeah.
You've got the whole thing sussed.
The whole thing is sussed, as with everything, yeah.